Good evening, folks. It's Martin Kelly here on a slightly bittersweet note. It's the final episode of our Breeding the German Shepherd podcast series, but that's the bitter part done, and now we're moving on to the good stuff. I'm absolutely delighted to be welcoming back for another podcast episode. I didn't scare him off the first time. Renowned German breeder, Mr. Christoph Ludwig of the Wanda Sennzeichen kennels in Germany. Christoph, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation to join you and the community again. Very glad for the opportunity to talk to you, and I'm happy that there are quite a few people maybe interested in what we want to talk about.
Yeah, no, certainly the feedback from the series so far has been very positive, Christoph, and I'm sure it will continue in the same note. And getting into the discussion then of, breeding. Yours really is a family involvement in German Shepherds. You started off back with your father. What made you decide to take up the hobby and become a breeder then as well?
Yeah, like you said, I did grow up with this. So my father started just shortly after I was born, though I did grow up with the dogs. And so my father also, he was a breeder. He wanted very, very short time after he got involved with dogs, he wanted to breed. So I did grow up with this topic. And for me, it was more or less, pretty natural way, to get a dog. I saw when I grew up, and as a young boy, I remarked when my father was picking up some dogs here, buying a female here, buying a female there, and trying something here. So this trying process went over, like, let's say, at least 10 years. And at the end, it was not very successful until we came just by chance to one female where we where we had the chance to start an individual breeding process. And so that was for me a very reasonable way to get the dog or the dogs which we wanted to have. Breeding was for me actually the reason. I did not learn. I did not know that we can, of course, you can buy a dog or take a dog somewhere in co-ownership with somebody. But for me, it was a pretty natural process. If we want to have a good dog, we need to breed it. We need to use a female. And that was for me pretty easy, the way to come into this breeding theme. Yeah.
And certainly you come into it with a really good founding female. Bianca von Huberstadt, I think is how I pronounce it, as we've discussed.
Yeah.
Isn't the best, but she's a female that, over 10 generations later has proved very important in your breeding process.
Actually, more than 15, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, just by chance, we did come to that female. That female was, not born with that, but she was like a fostering puppy. My father did get this female in the age of 2 days. As a tiny, she was as big as a mouse. As for foster, I think the word fostering female, who grew up additional puppies in that time. And though my father did get 4 puppies from another litter from a female who had 10 puppies. And my father had a litter with 1 or 2 puppies. And so he added 4 puppies from the other litter. And for his efforts, for his work, he did get 1 of these puppies. And she was the smallest. And she was Bianca from Hubertusschacht. This is our development, our foundation female. All the breed did develop after that female. She started our breed. She did grow up. She was very, very correct female. She was never a superstar in the shows. But this female was very correct in all parts, was very much in the type we would like to have. We always said, this is for us a nice female. Though also my father, he said that was after all his dryings and trying out to get dog here, dog there. This was a female. She turned out as a female he wanted to have. And we just had good luck to get this puppy, to get this female, and we had good luck that she did very, very well in her breeding career. Always a good mother female. She had never big stress with her. She was happy with the puppies, and she was up to her. In our even older days, she was still a good mother, and so
Yeah,
Just
she
by
was.
chance, yeah, just by chance, we had the luck to get this female, which we did start a breeding process, which is still in work, still in process until today. And still today, I have dogs where I can see the influence of this. I wouldn't say of this female, but of this part of
Yes.
the family. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that blood relationship. And in researching for this interview, Christoph, I mean, as a kennel, you said from the start that your vision, your mission statement was in breeding German Shepherd dogs, you're breeding to the standard, combined with your ideas of type, expression, and character. So, as a kennel now, how would you describe the type of dog that you produce?
Well, yeah, I think most of my dogs are strong. I have overall pretty strong dogs with strong bones, pretty substantial dogs, mostly, not always, but this is something I was looking. I was taking care of a lot of these things over all the generations to have, yeah, strong dogs, and sometimes I have to take care that they do not get too strong and too massive. And but this is something is necessary for me. Yeah, a good strength, good proportions. This is I usually have not. Depends always on which dogs you use for breeding, but usually I do not have dogs which are too stretched, too long, or on the other side too compact. So I'm taking care a lot of good body proportions. And which is something particular in my breed, I would say, comparing to many dogs in these days and in the development of the last 10, 15 years. I usually do not have dogs with pretty deep angulations, especially in the rear. Yeah. So I think I have a lot of generations with an influence that avoids over angulations and weak patterns. Of course, sometimes it appears because, yeah, we use father dogs where, okay, even if I look for the correctness of the father male, maybe he has any ancestors with these problems coming through. But usually I do not. Usually I have dogs with even less angulations in the rear than too much. And this is in these days something pretty necessary, yeah, because we have usually too many dogs with overangulations and with too much power of the rear and too much reangulations.
And how do you ensure then, Christoph, that these things that you like, obviously the good proportions, the good strength, and these things you don't like, the over excessive angulation in the rear, are maintained in your dogs generation upon generation? So, can you take us through when you're selecting a mating pair, looking at a stud dog, looking at the pedigrees, looking at the mating combination? What is your process for evaluating whether a male and female will be a good match to keep your type?
Well, first thing it is, of course, we try it always, but it's not a process to maintain the good things. Yeah, of course, this is the goal. This is what I want to do. But we are breeding. We are breeders and not producers or manufacturers. So we are not manufacturing a dog. So
Yeah.
there are so many influences and even genetical influences which we cannot foresee. Yeah. So there is a lot of things happening just by random and just by chance. You get the results in the good or in the bad way. So of course it is. We want to lock any good aspects what we have in our dogs, but it's never safe that will happen. This is the first thing, and the best idea to keep the good things is if you have some good aspects and positive aspects on a female, which I want to keep, to use a male who has a similar positive aspects. Yeah? Anatomically wise, in correct, like I said, correct proportions. For example, when I have a female where I think she has very correct body proportions, I take care a lot of that. And then when I use a male with correct body proportions, where I know that also in his pedigree these correct proportions are pretty much fixed, then the risk that you get any dogs who are maybe too long or too short or too short-legged or whatever with not correct proportions is smaller than if you use any dog with with some exaggerations in terms of the length or being too short or too deep or whatever. So I always like to combine similar dogs, because then the chance to know what you get is just bigger than when you put opposite dogs together. Yeah, exactly. Especially, I want to mention if I have a female which needs something more in a special way, better. Let's say, I don't know, a female with a short, steep croup, for example. I'm not looking for a dog with a, let's say, long, flat croup. Yeah, a flat croup is a fault, and a steep croup is also a fault. Putting two faults together will not come to a positive.
Right, yeah.
The right thing according to the standard. Yeah, I'm looking for a dog with a correct croup. Yeah. But not only in anatomical aspects, also for mentally aspects. If I have, for example, mentality, character, and temperament is at least as necessary as the anatomy. When I have a kind of, let's say, like a lazy female, slow-tempered and not moving and slow in everything, I would not like to use over-tempered male, which is a kind of like having a hyper temperament, or who is crazy, like I don't know, my slow female with a crazy working dog. That would not be usually not come to the right level in the middle. So always try to see. You must be critical enough to see what is the problem of your female, and looking for a male who has the right thing to offer to your female. And this in combination with mostly possible a similar type. This makes it much easier to breed in a family which does guarantee a little bit good similarity over several generations.
And on the point of looking at the family, particularly with the males, and as someone who has been on both sides of this when it comes to the stud dog and progeny groups. Obviously, you've had VA males in the past, and there's been progeny groups involved with that. And when you're at the Seeger show, and if you're assessing a male, firstly, as a breeder, what do you look for in a progeny group? And then as someone who has presented a progeny group, how do you organize that? Can you give us a little bit of background into what that process is like for you? How you make sure you pick the best specimens?
To be honest, the progeny group contest on a Seeger show is for me personally, not the main source of information what a male is producing.
Yeah.
Because I know that many of these groups are organized and prepared, and sometimes, of course, when you have a male who's presenting the third or the fourth group over years, then you have a good picture. But sometimes we have when a young dog is presenting his first group, I know that the owner of the male is trying to get every dog, and they hire dogs from all over the world. They spend money for transportation, for whatever, and these dogs. Sometimes it happens like this, that these dogs, they never appeared before and never appeared after. They just, sometimes I see groups with dogs with progeny, where the only reason of these dogs is to make 2 rounds in the stadium for the group. I'm a person who is pretty active over all the year. So we visit, we attend many shows over the year. We talk with many colleagues, with many other breeders, and I try to get as much as possible information on that way. So if I see all over the year the dogs on the show, this is my personal opinion, I do not need to see the dogs again on the Seeger show. Of course, I want to have the chance to have a look at the group, and sometimes, usually it happened. I can split up in the groups on the Sieger show in two groups, two kind of progeny groups, the good ones and the bad ones. The good ones are the ones with a very good similarity to the father and with a high anatomical standard. And we have in the moment not very many dogs where I see this, but yeah, quite a few, 3, 4 maybe. And then, yeah, you see progeny groups, like I said, yeah, they're just sampled by maybe only like 3 or 4 litters. And you never know, are these dogs, young dogs, they're just 12 months old, not X-rayed, not titled. So what do you know? You know just what the dogs are looking like on that day. This is for me not very much information to say, okay, oh, this is now a dog I want to use for breeding. This is one aspect, and many breeders also, many breeders say, oh yeah, the progeny groups on the Sieger show are very important. But then on the other hand, the dogs, very young dogs, are used mainly for breeding. If I have a Jugendsieger dogs who just turned 2 months with a high Sieger show rating, or where people expect any good influence, they use them mainly, yeah. So, for example, yeah, let's say in a Junghundsieger in the past, maybe not last year, but the 2 years before, yeah, this Yankee Cimeri, he was used for breeding from the first day like crazy. People went crazy for him, and everybody was using him wants to use him for breeding. Super dog, of course, yeah, but he's a young dog. We never know what he produces. And on the other hand, if we had a 2-time Sieger who has maybe shown his 4th progeny group, and in the age of 6 years, when he made his 3rd VA title, or maybe his 2nd Sieger title, VA1, then this dog is in this moment not used anymore for breeding, or not very frequently. This is a kind of a paradox situation. We should use much more dogs where we know what they breed. When we have dogs with progeny, with the who's presenting the 3rd or the 4th progeny group, then I can say, okay, this dog is now an established producer. He is producing on a high level. Then everybody should actually use him. Or we see after the 3rd group is still the same weak quality than the first 2. So better, we should not use him anymore. Yeah. So once again, the progeny group event is for me not the main source of information about a dog. Yeah, I try to get as many informations just because we are attending shows, we're talking to many people, and trying to get as much information as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Studying the pedigrees, yeah, knowing the dogs in the pedigree, not only looking at the pedigree, but it's good for me when I know the father and the mother line in the pedigree, because I know these dogs maybe from the shows or from trials or from any events before. Yeah.
And on that point of the mother line, Christoph, how important do you feel, and as a kennel that has had a long established multi-generational, family tree, how important do you feel that mother line is in determining the success of a breeding combination? Do the dog and the bitch both have to come from really good mother lines? Is that something that you would look at in a lot of detail?
I take care of that. I look at that. Yeah, it is for me an important thing. Yeah, not always the main thing. Yeah, but it is for me like I see in my own breeding. Yeah, like what I mentioned before. It is much easier for me to make a forecast what I expect when I breed a female, when I know the generations before. And this is something I expect also on a male, which I want to use for breeding. When I know that this breeder has built up also this line over generations, and I trust him, yeah, he has the same, or at least the same, maybe more knowledge of his dogs over many generations. Then I think, I put this a lot into consideration, yeah. And even much more when I know the mother line, when I know particular dogs in there, and That must not mean that all the mother line, that there must many VA females or any high-placed females. No, but when I see, okay, from this generation's tree, there are a lot of successful dogs coming in any tribes, left or right. And this is for me, successful family, which I put into consideration to breed with. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, the success is part of it, but it's not the main part. You look at obviously the quality of the bitch line, you look at the health of the dogs, and these types of things. And here's a, when we've done our research and we do the mating, there's puppies on the ground. From what age do you start to assess puppies for show potential, for workability? What is your assessment criteria for the puppies throughout stages?
This time frame is actually pretty small. To be honest, the time frame for making decisions to keep a puppy or not is maybe only a few days, in the age of 6 to 6.5 weeks. This is the age. I mean, I look at my puppies every day, several hours when they grow up on the first day. Yeah. And of course, you have a tendency, and you say, "Oh, this puppy, this male, this one is growing up nicely. That's developing. He's a little bit stronger than this one. Has a better pigmentation, maybe." Or but at the end, I sometimes I try not to look too much at the puppies, to keep a little bit the eye neutral and clear. But the age for me to decide for a puppy is between 6 and 6.5 weeks. So these are like 3-4 days where I spend hours in the kennel, in the puppy kennel, and let them go in the yard, let them run back and forth, separate them, and this is the age where I try to make the decision.
Yeah, you bring your sleeper bag into the whelping pen and you just watch them for the next few days.
Something like this, yeah, similar like this. Yeah.
And when you talk about assessing them, Christoph, are you looking at, obviously, I've talked to a number of breeders and everyone is very much against this idea of getting the puppy up on the table, doing the stand. Everyone is very much, they want to see the puppies moving, they want to see them interacting. For you, how important is conformation and temperament, or is it more temperament, then we look at the conformation? What's sort of your most valuable things to see in a puppy at that age?
Surely both aspects. Yeah. This is the reason that I take this age, because this is already an age where the kind of character is also developed. Okay, anatomical is one thing, but talking first about character. This age between, let's say, 6 to 7 weeks, there is a lot of only, how to find the word for me, to see a natural influence. Yeah, they are not influenced too much by their environment. Yeah. So, they are. I think the character in this age is almost only created or structured by genetic influence and maybe the mother. But the mother, let's say the mother is taking care of every puppy in the litter in the same way. Yeah. So if there is a difference, if there turns out a difference, like one puppy sitting in the corner watching and being maybe a little bit shy, and another puppy coming out and being curious for everything, this difference in this age must be pretty much genetically caused. Later, the older they get, the more they have more influence. Yeah, maybe something happened with one. Maybe anything is falling on the puppy that will have an infect for some days for him, or the mother is maybe biting or have a little fight with one puppy. Anything can happen. But this is also something I need to take care of. And this is the reason that I want to look at the puppies in this age, and also, of course, anatomically wise. I mean, we talking here mainly about show aspects and show dogs and working dogs, working breeders with working dogs would like to see this in a different way. They test different things, but of course, the temperament and the character is absolutely important, but also the anatomy, of course. This is the path which we will follow up, and at the end we would like to have good show dogs.
Yeah.
What does not mean only having a nice show dog, anatomically nice dog. We need a complete dog, of course. And you mentioned picking out the right puppy by let them move. Of course, I look at them moving always, but I'm also a friend of stacking the puppies, not stacking like building up and make any artificial picture of them. But when I stack them, I can I touch all parts of the puppy. I can just when I stand, like let's say 3 puppies, takes the first puppy, stand them, then I can feel the structure of the forehand, I can feel the position, the difference of the shoulder, upper arm, croup. And then when you take the next puppy, you can feel the differences. You can exactly compare. So is this shoulder, is the shoulder blade any longer, better in other position? Is the croup longer? So you can feel it, yeah. And this is a reason that I like to stack also the puppies, because here you can really easy compare them, yeah. Of course, absolutely necessary to see them moving, to see, okay, are they able to put these nice structures also into a nice movement? And this happens also in that age. In this age, puppies are pretty nice balanced. Later, 1 week later, when they are 8 weeks, after 8 weeks, they lose the balance, usually.
Yeah.
Growing faster mean that they are growing maybe more in the front part, more in the back part, and they lose a little bit the balance. And this is the reason for me that I especially choose this time from 6 to 7 weeks. Let's say 6 to 7 weeks. Yeah.
What is your cut-off point, Christoph? So let's say, for example, you pick a puppy at the 6.5 weeks, and you say, okay, this is the one I'm going to run on and see if it will have a career as a show dog. And as we say, from 8 weeks, it starts to happen. The limbs start to grow at a different rate. The puppy goes a little bit off for a while. At what point do you say, okay, it's done growing and it hasn't developed how I like this puppy, is not going to have a career as a show dog or a trial dog. It's going to be a family pet. At what point do you say, we gave it time, but this isn't the puppy I thought it was going to be?
I mean, I'm pretty strict in making the selection in a litter. So I know many breeders, they select, let's say in a litter of, let's say 6 puppies, they keep maybe 3 or 4, and you say, okay, we will see which one will turn out the best one. This is what I do not want to do. Not because I do not have the possibilities to keep puppies. Yeah, I have limited space. I have especially limited time. And when I grow up puppies, I want to take care of them as much as possible. I want to give them as good influence as possible.
Yes.
And so for me, it's not a good way to say, okay, let's for the next 6 months, I keep 4 puppies and they will just run around and then I will see which is the best one. This is not the way I do selection in my breeding. So I make a strict selection. I keep usually 1, sometimes 2 puppies. And when I make this choice, I wait, let's say pretty much 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah. It does not happen very often that I say, okay, that is not the dog when he is like 6, 7, 8. There are some time frames where I never made any decisions. For example, like let's say 4 to 5 months, or with 11 to 14 weeks, I will not look at the puppies. They can look whatever they can be as ugly as raccoons. I don't care in that age. When it was my choice with 6 and 7 weeks, this will stay my choice. And also the age of 7, 8 months, especially for males, I never look at the dogs. I never make a decision to say, oh, that dog looks now pretty bad age, better sell him. No. Not because of this. Maybe there are other reasons appear. Of course, of course, when any formal aspects are not coming up, like missing teeth or ear problem or X-rays are not super. Okay, this is something else. But anatomically wise, I try to wait. I have pretty much confidence that I want to wait up to, let's say like 1 year. When I was convinced on the dog in an early age, I can wait for 1 year to be convinced again. If there are times between where the dog does not convince me. And I can tell you that this happens pretty often. It is, happening pretty much. And I ask myself many times, oh my God, is this a dog? I was so convinced in puppy. When you see puppy, you see the future. You see the future VA dog, in every puppy, and not in every puppy, but in the first choice of the litter. And then sometimes, of course, I ask myself, okay, wow, will this be the future VA dog? Maybe he will be finished with an SG. But I try to keep confident as long as possible.
Yeah, you keep the faith in your breeding. Yeah.
Many times it shows me, and especially this is also maybe something in my line, in my breeding family, that dogs need a lot of time to develop. I know many dogs or many kennels, some show people, they come around with superstars, 5 or 6 month old superstars. They look like the perfect dog in the world, just need to be a little bit bigger. This is what I do usually not have. My dog looks like 5 months, and I want them to look. When they are 5 months, they should look like 5 months. And when they are 8 months, they should look like 8 months. And for me, it's totally okay then with 8 months when they are higher in the back than in the withers. And when the back is totally loose, this is fine for me, because I have confidence when it was 7 months before, always good in his development, then it will come back again.
Yeah.
And there's maybe something particular on my breed also that I do not have usually these superstars.
And on that point of knowing your breeding and trusting the genetics and the time and the research that you've put in, you mentioned there that, obviously, so your puppies sometimes very much look raw diamonds. They don't look like the VA at 5 months. But sometimes you see other dogs that, at 8 months, they look polished, perfected, ready to go. Do you think personally as a breeder that's a problem that has crept into the modern day breeds, where we are seeing particularly younger dogs looking very physically developed, very polished too early? Do you think it's a good thing to make sure that we keep in mind that these are still puppies, they're still young dogs? They should look a bit raw and still needing to develop.
I think this is much better. It's much better to wait. And we have a tendency in our breed and in our sport to make decisions very early. Dogs must look always complete. They must be always on top. And when we bring them to shows, they must be always super prepared and in best condition. And this started even with puppies. And then sometimes maybe there is a market for young superstars. Maybe there are people who want to say, oh wow, this is the best looking puppy. Maybe I'm able to spend a lot of money for that. This is not a good aspect, I think.
Yeah,
it's necessary to wait for the final development. And the dog is, even with 12 months and even with 15 months, he is not finally developed. There is a still of development going ahead after this time. And I have also in my dogs, in our generations, I have many examples where I saw dogs, even when I sold the dog with maybe, let's say, like 15, 16, 17 months, where I thought, okay, not my type of dog, or not the kind of where I see the future in my breeding for this dog. And then I saw the dog again with 22, 24 months, and I said, wow, he made it. The dog made the development, even after 1.5 years.
Yeah, the fine wine, Christoph. They got better with age.
For example, we had a few years ago the discussion of starting the puppy class on our German Sieger show, and the German on the Sieger show, to add the class 9 to 12 months on our Sieger show. I was absolutely against this because we are creating here, a title. For me, the Sieger Show, our Sieger Show, is still the main breeding
Yes.
show, and we do create here a title, a Sieger title. We will make a 9 to 12 class puppy winner. This winner has a big market value. He is looking super. We do not know anything about this dog. We do not know what about his X-rays. Yeah, we do not know what he will develop later. He is in the middle of his development. Will he improve, or will he maybe look worse in 1 year later? So I think for me it's absolutely a good idea not to start a puppy class in our German Sieger Show. Other countries,
Yeah.
it may be a different situation, and because the created value is not as high. But when we have, let's say, I don't know, I'm pretty sure there will be a market for the Seeger, and yeah, we will exhibitors will maybe start too early to prepare dogs for that. Yeah, it's also an aspect for me, very to take care a lot of. Yeah, not to start too early with training and preparation and physically
The conditioning. Yeah.
conditioning the dogs. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's as you say.
It should
It's
not
time
start
bears
too
fruit.
early.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit afraid when we would start on a Sieger show, on a German Sieger show, this class. I know it from other countries. Sometimes dogs are prepared like absolutely professionals in the age of 9 months. So I do not want to know what these dogs are doing already in the age of 3-4 months. Even they start. I mean, if the dog has fun in movement and if he's fine with moving in the show ring, that's fine. Some dogs, they don't need any preparation or any. But I can imagine that many dogs will be treated in physically conditioning in a very early age, which would not have a positive influence over the further development.
Yeah, of course, too much too soon can, number one, turn the puppies off the idea of showing, and you can have very unenthusiastic adults. And then, as you said earlier in this interview, the time bears fruit. We don't know potentially what's lying beneath the surface genetically. Some dogs might end up producing faults or having conditions, and they might be potentially awarded this puppy Seeger title. So it's interesting to get your thoughts on that, and certainly from a canine welfare point of view, it's important that we bear in mind too much too soon can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and we should a little bit think about this, that our young dogs are young dogs, youth class and young dog classes dogs. These are dogs who are still in development. They can develop in both ways, in a good way, in a bad way, on both aspects. Anatomically, physically, and psychologically also. Yeah, mentally, both directions are possible. There is a lot of things also happening mentally in this age. Yeah, even dogs who are a little bit maybe not have a big self-confidence in the age of, let's say, 12, 13, 14 months, they will develop this, and they can develop this, and they can be much better dogs later in her age. Yeah. So it is always necessary to let the dogs grow up, give them the time. And this is also one reason for me. I give them as much time as possible to develop and to see where is the direction they go. It's not always a positive direction. Of course, sometimes it happens that they do not fulfill my expectations. Yeah. But okay, that's breeding. Like I said, it's not manufacturing, it's breeding.
It's an art form, and there's always that element of luck needed as well.
Yeah, of course. Luck, good luck, and having just good luck is a big aspect in what we are doing.
Yeah. Certainly.
Waiting for having this good luck.
Over years
sometimes. Yeah.
I'm still waiting on it, Christoph. But I suppose for you, Christoph, as someone who's had a lifetime involvement as a breeder, and we've talked about certain trends that maybe are not so good in terms of too much too soon for puppies, but are there any developments that you're seeing now in the type of breeding practices going on that are drastically different to when you started? Are some of them good, do you think? Are some of them bad? Obviously, we've talked about too much too soon for puppies, but are there other things happening now with breeding programs that you think are positives or negatives?
I think it's difficult question. I think not everybody, not every breeder is breeding in the same way.
Yeah.
We have breeders doing a constantly breeding job over the years, over generations. For example, for me, my main goal in breeding is not to achieve in the next litter the next VVA dog. This is not my main goal. My main goal in breeding is to lead what I have achieved in my breeding into the next generation. Like you say, to maintain it, to keep it, to save it as good as possible. And I think many breeders have a similar idea. And these are breeders who are successful over many years. And we had in the past many more of these kind of breeding persons, of breeders. We had breeders, they started, I can imagine when I was a young boy in the 70s, 80s, there were breeders, they started after the war. They started breeding in the 50s, and after 30 years of breeding, they had a lot of success. This happens because they had a very stable family line. And now I am in a similar situation after 30 years, 35 years of breeding. But like I said, the success for me is that I now have not the 100% security, but I know that I have now a breeding stock which will go from one generation to the next generation. But also we have breeders in these days, and I think we have more breeders today than we had in the past, who are looking for the short-term success. They have maybe the goal, okay, they want to breed, they want to put a female together with a male, and they want their idea is to have in this litter at least one VA dog. Sometimes it happens. Many more times it does not happen like this. And then they try with another female and another male, and with another family, and looking here, looking there, and maybe if they have resources, buying top dogs here, and it's getting more and more international. Yeah, it was also something much more different to the days when I was looking back in the past. Yeah, the breeding activities were much more in the own region, not only in the whole country. But more, people had not the chance to go 500 kilometers to their favorite stud male. And today it's a different situation. If I want to breed with a male anywhere in Europe, I will use him. I will will drive 2 days, whatever. Everything. People in other countries make almost everything possible. So that it's a different kind of breeding. Yeah. But I'm also looking always for dogs who are coming from the consistently breeding active kennel. Yeah. Like I said, we talked about influence of the mother line. It has for me an influence, even with other countries breeding. We have a lot of Italian breeders, for example, who are successful and also breeding for many generations in the family lines. And also in Casa Beggiato, for example. This is for me a good example of a family line stable, being absolutely successful now with all his dogs coming from his proven and family line. Yeah. So I would always be happy to use a good dog from this kennel, for example, for my breeding, because I trust that that this breeder has a big stock of females, and not only females, also male in his pedigree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true of what you're saying. Over the successive generations and over 30 years of careful planning and preparation, you can stand over it because you know what's behind your dog, because you were there for what was behind that dog and the dog before. And tell me this, Christoph, as as not only a successful breeder, but as a successful judge and someone who has judged across the world and gone across many countries, many continents. What are your thoughts overall on the breeding standards of other countries, breeders outside of Germany or even within Germany as well? Do you think that it's going in the right direction now, or are you seeing trends in certain regions that you think might be concerning?
Yeah, both. Difficult to see.
Yeah.
Was judging in many countries in many areas of the world, and of course there are tendencies, of course there are aspects always, and I always try to give them my idea. I cannot always talk about a population because I do not know when I go to a country first time and I see 50 dogs or 100 dogs on a show. I don't know. I cannot say this is your population, but I can talk about the dogs in the show. Of course, we have overall, I would say we have positive tendencies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here in Germany, we do mention the problems we have. Of course, mainly in our country. Maybe other countries do not have the problem what we have, but the tendencies are pretty well known. Though we have the tendency of, or we had in the past, the tendencies of our dogs getting bigger and bigger or larger and larger. We had the tendencies of having deep angulations in the dogs in combination with unstable joints, with unstable rear, also unstable elbows. And we are working against these tendencies. And this work has also an effect in other countries. Yeah. But the level of these problems is very different in many regions. So, for example, let's say South America or even South Europe, dogs have much more of these problems because the breeders there, they took a lot of care of far-reaching movement. As much reach as possible the more reach, the better it is. Yeah, it's not that easy like this. And now it's a part of the duties, a part of the work of the judges to convince breeders and exhibitors in these countries that this is maybe not the right thing. We must turn back again. Also, large dogs. Yeah, I was now last weekend judging in a North European country, yeah, where I cannot say they had no problems with overangulation. They have no problems not at all problems with loose hocks or loose backhands, but they have problem with having large dogs.
Yeah.
So also I have to mention that. I have to tell them here, you have to take care of that. Yeah, it's not something you need to be aware of, and you must put this into your breeding consideration. And that works pretty well all over the world. Yeah, I think there's no country who is saying, no, we are creating our own dogs. Yeah. What is very interesting is, I mean, we have a kind of some countries coming very new, starting shortly a few years ago by having German Shepherds or by having an organization with German Shepherds. I was now recently in some African countries, for example, or in the Far East. So these are countries. I'm absolutely glad to see the enthusiasm of the people in these countries. But of course, they have to. Yeah, there is not a homogene population. Yeah.
Yeah.
These countries, they are in the middle. They are a little bit in the process of collecting dogs, and now they have to see what can they do with these dogs. Let's say they collected from all over the world. Yeah. Also a very interesting process. I try to follow up a little bit in some countries and giving some advice and some ideas. And but like I said, different regions of the world, different countries having different attitudes.
Yeah.
And also different ways of having different infrastructures. Yeah. So for example, some countries have a super stock of let's say working of helpers. They have a good structure in the country with having clubs all over, and people have the chance to train every week, for example. In other countries, they do not have this infrastructure with local clubs. They have maybe no experienced bite work helpers, things like this. So yeah, once again, different countries having different levels of work, and I think we have the WSV harmonization program, which is pretty good idea to actually the basic idea of the WSV to come to a common level of having the dogs. And knowing about this or having this situation, which is very different to the situation like 30 years before, it makes us able in Germany and all over the world to use dogs from other countries. We are able to use dogs, let's say, from South America, from other parts of Europe, from Asia, with other bloodlines, because we cannot be sure that they thus fulfill all requirements over more generations. But I think all in all, it's a positive aspect of having the chance of having the possibility to include also some bloodlines from other countries.
Yeah, some global diversity.
Exactly, that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, global is something that's definitely associated with your kennel as well, Christoph. I mean, some of the dogs that you've sent to other countries have done fantastic. I mean, the likes of Urso, I mean, VA1 at the Copa Costa Rica show in 2023, and you VA1 in Colombia, and you've had other dogs go to America and win nationals there. And how proud does that make you as a breeder to know that the dogs you keep and the dogs you export to other kennels are of the same quality?
Absolutely proud. I'm proud for every dog who is from my kennel who is successful somewhere. So this is for me nothing to mention. When I sell a dog for whatever reason and he has success somewhere, I am absolutely proud.
Of your
For
own,
me, this is like it should be. But I know also some breeders. I get some comments. I did wrong selling this dog because now he's their superstar and want to have him back, or now somebody else is having the chance to breed with my dog. I am proud if my dogs are used to breed and are successfully breed in other countries and other regions in the world. No doubt about that.
It's that old phrase, isn't it? The rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly.
And in terms of your own dogs that you've had, Christoph, yourself, I mean, you've had phenomenal success over the years. I mean, numerous VAs. I mean, Lana and then Leona as well. I mean, the Sigarine VA4 dogs as well. Leo VA10, Exana VA5. It's probably a very difficult question, but of all the dogs you've bred and kept yourself, do you have any particular favorites from over the years?
Yeah, of course. Not only the VA dogs, but I think I have the good thing is that almost, let's say, I'm just looking on my wall here with my VA dogs, and I think all of them had a very positive influence on my breed.
Yeah.
Or some less. But so, for example, I mean, Lana making VA1, this is something we were dreaming up to that point for years of. If you start something to do, if we started attending our first dog show somewhere when I was a little boy in the 70s, we had a dream to have a Seeger and to have a VA1 dog. And we are very, very grateful that we have the chance. This did came true. Yeah, that did happen. I mean, other breeders breeding also all her life and never had their biggest dream getting fulfilled. So we are very, very grateful for that. And maybe it will come back once again, but maybe not. Yeah, and so having this success and this placement with this female, I mean, she is pretty much on the top of my favorite dog because of giving me this feeling. Yeah, I never had this. That was the kind of feeling where we can say, okay, now I reached what I always did work for. Yeah. And this is one aspect that Lana is, of course, one of my favorite dogs, and she still has a big influence on my breeding today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not from her first generation, to be honest. She was for me a super female, not only because of her anatomy, but also she had mentally very, very much of what I wanted to have. You know, her mentally strength was tremendous, and this was something she gave me. She gave me such a lot of fun. And to be honest, she was not by herself. She was not the top producer in the first generation. In her second generation, her granddaughters and her grandsons were a little bit better than her direct sons and daughters. But in the third generation, I had dogs who had where I did see the absolutely positive influence of this female once again. Yeah. And I still have today dogs where I had the chance to keep this mentality strength, this mental strength, and the anatomically positive aspects. I was able to keep it after a few generations. But so this is one female. Another female, one of my favorite dogs, is still alive, is Viola. Leo daughter, of course. Leo did also give us so much good moments in our life. Yeah, having Junghornsieger and having a VA dogs in my gallery of let's see seven VA dogs. He is the only male, and this is something extra. He was Junghornsieger, and for giving also for this moment, I'm so grateful for this male. And his daughter Viola, which is still with my friend and still alive, now 12 years. To be honest, she is from all my dogs, I think, anatomically the best dog. She is for me the most correct dog I did ever breed. Correct in all anatomically aspects.
Yeah.
Also mentally pretty nice, pretty good dog. But anatomically wise, she is from all over the year my personally my epitome of my own breed.
Yeah, I mean, well, it works well. Even that line, just looking at my wall of VAs, I think that's something we can all aspire to have, Christoph.
Yeah, but having the hope is what keeps our whole thing alive. And I did not stop after having a VA. I did not stop. I'm always I wanted to keep forward. But once again, I'm not breeding to reach the next VA dog in the next litter. I'm breeding to maintain my things who are important for me into the next generation.
And in that line of the next generation and the next set of dogs, I'm curious, do you have any unfulfilled ambitions left with your dogs, with your kennel?
Yeah, I want to win the kennel group competition.
Yeah.
Once. It would be something. Yeah, this is still something I would like to reach. Yeah. I was one time on second place. I was 2 times, I think, on third place, and quite a few times on the top 5. Very happy, very proud about that. It's also very important for me to have the chance to present a kennel group, to present breeding products. But winning this competition would be something very, very, very attractive to me.
Yeah. It'll be the jewel in the crown.
Yeah.
And Christoph, as we come to the end of this interview, and thank you so much again for taking part. It's been great to have you back and to discuss this topic with you. I'm curious, do you have any pieces of advice for any new or young aspiring breeders that want to have their wall of VAs one day? What would be your main piece of advice for them?
Yeah. You need to have a plan. Yeah. Like I said, everybody has a plan to put male and female together and hopefully get the next superstar dog in this litter, the superstar dog with the best show results. if you want to be a breeder, if you have fun in breeding dogs, because it is fun to raise up puppies, it is fun to see the development of the dogs over the time. It is fun to see this same, if you have a good dog, to the same good dog in the next generation. If you have fun with that, you need endurance. You need, you must know that you need to have a goal, and you need to follow this goal, and you need to know that it maybe needs years and years and years to reach this goal, and you need always to be aware that you maybe never reached this goal. But instead of trying again, instead of trying, buying another female or buying another dog or trying here, trying there, it would be, if you want to be a breeder, it would be much more promising if you take a female where you think, okay, this dog is pretty complete, what I wanted to have, and try with it. Yeah. Okay. Not try for eternity. Like, let's say after 3 litters, I have a kind of a philosophy. When I have a female after 3 litters, I have the progeny from this female, which does fulfill my expectations. And if I do not have it after 3 litters, because with 3 litters, I made my mind for 3 different males. I thought, okay, the first time I thought a male, that could be a good fitting male for that female. Maybe it did not work. Then I will make another idea about a male in the second litter. And if this does also not work, I made another litter with the third time. I made my mind a third time, trying to find the right breeding partner. But if it didn't work in three tryouts, it usually will not try later again. So then it may be the point to see, okay, that's maybe not the right female. Try it with another female in this breeding process.
Yeah, 3 strikes and you're out.
This is a little bit of my philosophy. Yeah.
Well, it's clearly worked very well over the years, Christoph, and
not always. It's not, like I said, it's not constantly always going.
Yeah.
From one step to the other. You must also one recommendation. You must be able to learn when you step back. Yeah, when you go 2 steps forward and 1 step back, you must know that, okay, now are coming 2 steps forward again. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, endurance and is something very important, and you must know that breeding is there is a big word in German. Breeding is thinking in generations, and that means you need to be conditioned for years and years. If you are not able to do this, okay, you can reset this by investing money, for example, or instead of breeding, you can buy, but this would be much less fun for me, at least.
Yeah, and there's not the same sense of pride when you look at the dog on the podium as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, Christoph, I want to thank you so much for taking part and coming back for this new series, and hopefully I'll get you back again for another episode soon. But in the meantime, thank you so much for taking part and for helping me close out this series on breeding the German Shepherd.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for making this series, for giving people the chance to get informed, and I think it's pretty interesting for the people. I did get some good recommendations and good feedback from many people also in other countries. Thanks you for your work, and my best regards to everybody in the audience. I'm glad that I had the chance to make this interview, and I hope some of you guys did get a little bit of a good idea from some words from me.
Thank you so much, Christoph. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in for this final installment of Breeding the German Shepherd. I've been Martin Kelly with German Shepherd Dog Global Media. It's been my pleasure to bring you this episode with Christoph Ludwig, and we'll be back very, very soon. In the meantime, take care, folks.